Hey guys, it's me Elizabeth. I am back with another video. It is officially December 28th, so it is the end of the year, and I'm going to be doing my top 10 books of 2021, my top 10 favorite books. I don't know how many videos I'm going to get out before the end of this year, but I have a bunch of videos that still need uploaded that I filmed, so I am hoping the ones that I actually want to get uploaded, that I will edit them and upload them before the start of the new year, because at the start of the new year I want to delete any footage that I have left over from this year and create a whole new video. So any videos that come out in 2022 are videos that were filmed in 2022 and not videos that were filmed a few months ago in 2021. So I just want to make that a clean video slate, whatever you want to call that. Also, sorry for any background noise. There's a barking dog, so that's gonna be annoying. But anyways, let's just get into the top 10 books, favorite books that I've read this year. Starting at number 10, we have Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Most of these, I will warn you, were listened to by audio because that's how I read a majority of my books this year. And I will tell you whether I listened to it or read it physically or did both, because there's a few that I did that with this year. So, this one I listened to on audio drama, BBC radio drama, and I already knew the story because I've seen the 2008 version of Sense and Sensibility, the miniseries, and I love that miniseries. So it's the one that has Dan Stevens in it, not the one that's older and has Emma Thompson or somebody like that in it. I don't remember the person's name who's in it, but something like that. But anyways, I listened to the audio drama this year. I mean, I do eventually want to read every Austen book, but I just specifically put this one on this list because I absolutely loved it. It's, besides Pride and Prejudice, it is my favorite Austen novel, and I've listened to quite a few this year actually on audio drama, so this was my favorite, and I already kind of knew the story, but what I did was I listened to it and then I watched the 2008 film, and I was like, these are pretty close. Like, nothing's perfect except for 1995 Pride and Prejudice. Nothing else is perfect. So, but it was pretty accurate. I was like, this is really good. I can see what's happening here and stuff. So, Sense and Sensibility is an Austen novel. If you don't already know what it's about, basically it's about these sisters and their mother who these sisters' father dies, and then they have to give up their estate to their uncle slash their mother's brother or father's brother or something. I don't know. You get the picture. And then they have to go live in a cottage in the country because they don't have enough money for a respectable, nice house because all their stuff went to their uncle. So then it follows from there, and number nine is The Ichabod by J.K. Rowling. This book, it was so entertaining. I guess the only thing I could say is that it was J.K. Rowling, so of course I'm gonna love it. I did read this one physically, and it was amazing. And then as soon as I started reading this book, I was just like, my brother would like this book. It reminds me of something that my brother would write, because he's 10, and so he writes his own stories and stuff and comes up with these crazy names and weird odd things, and it's just such the story that my brother would like. So I was after I finished it, I was like, you need to read this. He read it, he really liked it. Then my other brother read it and liked it, and my mom read it and she liked it, and my dad read it, I think he liked it. It's a good book. That's what I gotta say. I actually got my family to read this book. Like, usually a lot of the books I read, I just read it because I like them and I'm fun. I don't really, like, tell other people I know to read them because I don't know people who like the type of books that I like, per se. But this one, I was like, you gotta read this, and then Lewis and then Teddy read it, and then my mom read it, and just everyone read it, and I was just like, yeah, it's a good book. J.K. Rowling is a good writer. But essentially, the Ichabod is about, well, a monster called the Ichabod. Basically, it's a myth that this monster, there's this monster called the Ichabod, and it eats people and stuff. I don't know. But then this king decides he's gonna go fight this Ichabod, and then a whole thing goes down, and someone ends up dying, and he blames it on the Ichabod, but it's not, the Ichabod isn't real, or at least people don't think he's real, but people think he's real, but he's not the cause of the accident. And this king has just really got some issues and stuff, and then there's some kids end up trying to figure out what actually went down because the person that ended up dying was one of the kids' father. So it's just this whole story, and it's actually so interesting, and there's so much like the names and all the stuff, like, it's just so odd, but it's awesome and it's amazing, and it's a good children's fantasy book. If you are into that thing, you should check it out because it's really good, and J.K. Rowling's a great writer. So also, it has children's artwork in it. So it was originally a story that J.K. Rowling had published on the internet or something, and when she decided that she was going to put this in a book, she had like some sort of contest or something where she got kids to draw pictures from the story, and she picked pictures that these kids drew and put them in the book. And I think that is just the coolest thing because it gives you a visual of what these things and people and stuff are supposed to look like, but it's also like drawn by children who read the story, and it's not just like, I don't know, I think it's the coolest thing. Lots of things happen throughout the story. Book number 8, we have Maddie Mayo by Brian Jacks. Jacks? I think you say Jacks. Anyways, this book was really good. So basically this year I reread Redwall, which is a book that I read years and years and years ago physically, but I never continued reading the rest of the books because, I don't know, I just didn't. But then this year I decided to reread Redwall, but I listened to the audiobook, and then I was going to continue reading the series through, and I read Maddie Mayo next, which is actually the third book in the series, so I read it out of order. I also listened to this one on audiobook, and then, what I did was I listened to Redwall, and then I listened to Martin the Warrior, and then I listened to Maddie Mayo, which is so totally out of order because Redwall is book number 1, Martin the Warrior is book number 6, and Maddie Mayo is book number 3. I didn't realize that when I was listening to them. I was just kind of listening to the ones that I knew about. And then I also listened to Mossflower, which is the second book, because I decided that now I know I was reading them out of order, I'm going to try to read them in order. But I've decided I'm not going to read all of the books. I'm going to read more of the books, the ones that my brother will recommend me because he's read them all, and he said that some of them are kind of repetitive and just like the same story over again. So I'm not going to read the whole series, but I am going to read more of the books because I've really enjoyed the ones that I've read so far. Number 7, we have another book that I listened to by Audible, and that is The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. I actually listened to a couple of C.S. Lewis books on audio, but this one just like so good. I love C.S. Lewis. He's a favorite author of mine, and this book was so amazing. It's just basically about heaven and hell, and it's about like the people who die it's like they're in between, like deciding on whether they get to go to heaven or hell, essentially. I don't know. It's just such a really great book. I'm gonna be really bad at explaining it, so I'm not gonna try and explain anymore. But it's a really great book, and I really, really enjoyed this one. Coming in at number 6, we have Anne of Avonlea by Ella Montgomery. If you haven't already seen videos on my channel, you won't know that I'm obsessed with Anne of Green Gables, the book, and the movies, and I am slowly trying to make my way through the whole series. And in October I read Anne of Avonlea, and these books are so easy and so fun to read. They're so enjoyable, and I love it. And this book took me by surprise, or whatever, because basically I've read the first book twice in my life, and I've seen the movies, the Sullivan Entertainment 3-movie set. I've seen those a ton of times throughout my life, and so when reading the second book, I was like expecting it to be a little bit like the movie. I knew it wasn't going to be exactly the same, because I knew that, but I didn't know it was going to be absolutely nothing like the movie. Absolutely nothing like the movie. There is one small tiny scene that happens in the book with the cow that is kind of similar in the movies, but it's also different because it happens differently in the book than it does in the movies. But the whole cow situation does happen, it just happens differently. But everything else in the book is completely different. But you know what? I still love the book, and I still love the movie. They're just different with the same title, different stories with the same title, about the same characters. But it's insane because the book was really good, and the whole time I was reading this, by the time I finished it, I should say, I was just like, wow, that's not the same thing as the movie at all. It was just so weird. I was reading it, and every time I'd be like, where did they get the story for the movie? I'm so confused. Like, I don't know if the story that they've had in the movie happens later in the series. Although, if it does, I don't know why they would name it Anne of Avonlea when it's not the same. I'm, like, really confused as to how they got that story in the movie Anne of Avonlea, but somehow they did, and I enjoy it, but nothing like the Anne of Avonlea book. But I really, really enjoyed this book a lot, and I love Ella Montgomery. I love Anne of Green Gables, kind of have an obsession if you didn't know, and I'm going to continue the series for sure. The reason I put Anne of Avonlea on here over Anne of Green Gables is because I already read Anne of Green Gables, so it's technically a reread, and Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea was a new read. So this book consists of all books that I've either finished this year or read for the first time this year, not books that I reread. Number 5, we have one of the best books ever, and that is Band of Brothers by Stephen E. Ambrose. I can't tell you how amazing this book is. Oh my gosh. I listened to this one on audiobook. Forgot to mention the last one. I did read that one physically. Anne of Avonlea. But this one, Band of Brothers, I listened to the audiobook for this, and basically here's my inspiration for reading this book. I mean, I already love history. I love learning about World War II and any kind of history, really. But I watched the TV show Band of Brothers by HBO. I've seen it before, but I rewatched it at the beginning of this year or something, or the end of last year or something. And as soon as I finished rewatching it, I was like, I want to rewatch this again. Like, I wanted to rewatch it. Like, I literally had this strong feeling of I want to rewatch this so badly. Like, it was one of those things where, like, sometimes after you rewatch something, you're like, oh, I could watch that again, it's so good, but you don't actually watch it. But this was, like, the strong feeling, like, if I didn't find something else, that I would have watched it again. But then I was like, why don't I listen to the audiobook, because I have a credit on Audible, and I did, and I died. It was so amazing. I love the story for that, and it's so good. I love history, and I love learning about historical events that are true. I like historical fiction sometimes, but I definitely love more of the non-fiction type of history. And this book, I just love everything relating to Band of Brothers. I've read 3 different books this year relating to Band of Brothers because that's how much I love it. I have a slight obsession, you could say, but this book is just so amazing. Here's my copy of the book. I thought I'd just give you a little summary of what this is about without trying to explain it out of my brain because I will probably fail at it. But it's E Company, 506th Regiment, 101st Airborne, from Normandy to Hitler's Eagle Nest. That's how they describe that. And then this is the description for the book. As a good rifle company as any in the world, Easy Company, 101st Airborne Division, U.S. Army, kept getting the tough assignments, responsible for everything from parachuting into France, early D-Day morning, to the capture of Hitler's Eagle Nest at Berchtesgaden. I pronounced that completely wrong. In Band of Brothers, Stephanie Ambrose tells of the men in this brave unit who fought, went hungry, froze, and died in a company that took 150% casualties and considered the Purple Heart a badge of office. Drawing on hours of interviews with survivors as well as the soldiers' journals and letters, Ambrose recounts the stories, often in the men's own words, of these American heroes and the brotherhood forged on the battlefield. I also want to give an honorable mention to the Conversations with Major Dick Winners by Cole C. Kingseed, because that book was literally the best thing ever. It was so good. But I apparently didn't add it on this list, so I'm just going to honorable mention it here whilst I'm talking about Band of Brothers. Coming in at number 4, one of the best fantasy series that I have read, one of the best children's fantasy series, and that is On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness by Andrew Peterson, or the Wingfeather Saga. I'm just gonna count like all 4 books as one because like they were all amazing, and I gave them all a 5 stars because it's just so good, so amazing. It's so well written, and basically I listened to the audiobooks for this one because I just did, but my family had been bugging me for a long time to read the series. They're like, have you read it yet? Have you read On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness yet? I'm like, no, not yet. I'm going to. And then I finally did this year. I finally listened to all of the books. And it was worth it, man. The audiobook is narrated by Andrew Peterson, and he does such a good job of narrating, and the books are just so amazing. It is a middle grade fantasy, and basically it's about these 3 siblings, and it's just so good. You have to listen to it. You have to check it out. I'm not going to try and describe it because I'll fail. Coming in at number 3, we have some Dickens on here. We have Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, my favorite Dickens book, and one of my top favorite books of all time. This book, let me just say, it took me 3 years to read it, but it was worth it because it's so amazing. I love the story, and basically my inspiration for being really into this book / just being really into Dickens is because of the BBC miniseries Little Dorrit. That's what really like got me into the Little Dorrit book, and I wouldn't say it's the first thing that got me into Dickens because Nicholas Nickleby was the first thing, but it was high up there in getting me into my love for Dickens. And this book is just so amazing. It's about this girl who was born in the Marshalsea, and she basically lives in the Marshalsea and helps out her father, and eventually she gets a job, and this guy, who is the son of the person she got a job from, decides that he wants to help her out because he finds out that she lives in the Marshalsea. He wants to help her out, help her and her family out, and try and figure out if he can get them out of the Marshalsea. And it's such an amazing book. There's so many amazing characters and so many really bad characters, but I love the diverse cast of characters in this. I love there's so many different characters. Book number 2, second favorite book that I read this year. This book is absolutely amazing, and this book would also be on my top 10 favorite books if I had read the rest of the series, but I haven't. So basically, this book is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, book 1 in the Stormlight Archive. I half read the book and half listened to it, so there's that. But basically, this book is one of the most amazing fantasy books I've ever read. And the reason I didn't put it on my top 10 favorites is because I have only read the first book, and I want to wait until I finish the whole series before I say that this is one of my favorite books, because who knows if the series will veer into a direction I don't like or whatever. I just want to reserve judgment until I finish the series, because I feel like that's just the best idea at this point. But I absolutely loved this book. We follow a ton of different perspectives, and it's set in a high fantasy world, and I'm not even going to try to explain it because there's just so much, but this book is amazing. If you are interested, I will warn you that there are 4 books in the series so far. He plans to come out with like 10 or 11 in 5 increments, like 5 books and then 5 books that kind of group together, but it's all in the same series. And every book that's come out so far is over 1,000 pages long. So if you're not into super long books, then I would say this is not for you. But if you like high fantasy, if you like long books, this book was phenomenal. I loved it. And every time I think about the second book, Words of Radiance, I want to read it so badly. But I'm trying to be patient and wait till the 5th book comes out so I can read the next 4 books together, so all the 5 books, like, so I read that in sections together, and then I'll wait till the other 5 books come out and read those together so I don't forget stuff. But it's really hard for me not to just pick up the second book and read it. And honestly, I might do that because I am like dying to read the next book. Like, it's just so amazing. The number 1 book, my favorite book of the year that I read, this book, you won't be able to guess it most likely because you probably won't know, but my favorite book that I read this year is Beyond Band of Brothers by Major Dick Winters. Yes, another Band of Brothers book. This book was just absolutely amazing. Basically, I listened to Band of Brothers and I was like, this is amazing. And then I listened to Beyond Band of Brothers and I was just like, this is even more amazing somehow. And I don't know why, but I absolutely loved this book. It was actually super close between Beyond Band of Brothers and The Way of Kings. Like, for a long time, The Way of Kings was like my number 1, and then when I read Beyond Band of Brothers, I was just like, this might surpass The Way of Kings. So they're like super close. Like, it was really hard to choose which was the first one because they're both amazing. But Beyond Band of Brothers is basically what the title says. It's Beyond Band of Brothers, and it's written by Major Dick Winters himself, which I think is just awesome. And this book is just so amazing. Like, I don't know why, but I love it. It goes beyond, like, it goes into Band of Brothers, and then it goes beyond that, and it's just so amazing. He also co-wrote it with Colsey Kingseed, who is the guy that wrote the other book about him, who is also one of his best friends. Well, I hope this video wasn't too long, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what your top books were, your top 10, top 5, whatever. So that's it for this video. If you want to support my channel, you can like the video down below and subscribe if you want. And if you're into history, historical, fashion, or science, you can check out my other channel, also linked below. And I will see you in the next one. I hope you have your own fun reading adventures. Bye.